Hey guys, Big Sexy here, and we've got a pretty awesome episode. We get to speak with Glenn Williams, who is the Baseball Australia CEO. He's going to talk to us about the crazy few months that we've had in ABL land. Obviously, Melbourne Aces. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about Sydney, Blue Sox, and of course, most recently, the Perth Heat, and what that means for the ABL moving forward. But if you haven't already, make sure you check out at Blue Blast Podcast, all of our socials. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're even over on YouTube. So if you like listening to the podcast, that's cool. But hey, if you want to go and watch along, the video's there too. It's over on YouTube at Blue Blast Podcast. And here is our episode with Glenn Williams, Baseball Australia CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Bloop and a Blast podcast. My name is Big Sexy. I am the Bloop. His name is Luke Hughes. He is the Blast. And we do have a very special guest, obviously, given the circumstances of everything that's going on in Australian baseball at the moment. We do have Glenn Williams, the Baseball Australia CEO. Glenn, thank you so much for jumping on with us. We do really appreciate you jumping on the podcast with us, mate.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you. And look, mate, Hughesy is just raring to go. He's got so many questions for you. We've all got so many questions. The baseball community has questions for you. Some of them won't be easy, and we know that. And we know that you're not here to do that. But I do have an easy one for you early on, right? It involves a little story. But 2019, 2020, I did a podcast with me, mate. It was called the Players Podcast Australia. In the 2020, 2021 season, there was no season, right? Luke and I started this last year, right? Now we're in the situation we're in. Is it me? Have I wrecked baseball in Australia? Is that what it is, Willow? Is that what's going on? You can blame me.
No, look, it'd be easy to blame you, but no, definitely not that, mate. That's we can't draw those links. So as much as that might make you feel a lot more important.
I am, right? I think this might be our last podcast ever. I think we're going to cancel him. We're going to get cancelled and we move on, mate. Maybe we can do a podcast instead.
Nah, all good. Nah, definitely not those links as much as that might lift your status up a little bit. So
I'm glad. I was actually worried. I thought it was all meat. Look, mate, it's been a crazy few months ever since the Claxton Shield was awarded, and probably look behind the scenes too. It's probably been longer than that. But how's everything going? I mean, before we get into specifics, how is it all going? It seems crazy for you guys.
Yeah, look, it's not been easy. Obviously there's, been some challenges over the course of the last 3 months or so. Not the first time we've faced challenges with the ABL, and again, as, usually happens, Baseball Australia, the, license holders are involved in it, dig deep and, do what you can to be able to kind of get through it. The challenging times, a lot of it has played out publicly this time, which has, been a little bit challenging. And, obviously, when things play out publicly, people get upset about it. They obviously care about things. So that's been, reasonably challenging. But look, things are progressing. Like things take time, and it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication by a lot of people over the course of a number of months. A lot of like deep dives and analysis, and making sure that things are viable and that we're moving things in the right direction. The ABL season in 25-26 is important to us, and we've, been firm on that. We're, keen to be able to get the season out there. We think that the fans and the players and umpires and scorers and everyone who's been involved in the ABL for a long, long time deserve us putting the effort to be able to do that. We've had license holders that have been with us and working through it, and, some have done analysis and figured out it's not for them for this coming year, and others have gone, look, we're going to dig in and make it work. So look, it's been really tough on a lot of people. There's been a lot of hard work being done by lots and lots of people, and we're getting closer to being able to deliver our season for 25-26. So we're appreciative of the people that have been supportive of that and driving it forward. We totally understand that there's people that aren't necessarily happy with that, and we're doing the best we can with the situation that we're faced with. A lot of work to be able to deliver that successfully, and concurrently, the work that we're doing in relation to what a league reset could look like and what the league could look like in the future has been ongoing. We're talking about, prior to the end of the ABL season, these conversations have been ongoing. So a recognition of that from those involved. And so there's a significant piece of work going on to not only deliver something successful that's for this coming season, but something that's sustainable and successful well into the future.
I guess, my first question, to you, mate, is why now? Like, why did you feel it's important now? Obviously, there's been a lot that's happened over the last 3 months. Obviously, with Brett pulling out, the Aces, Canberra, obviously pulling out as well. Their announcement, and then obviously with the Perth Heat ownership as well. Why did you feel now? Because a lot of people just craving information, right? And that's what we're all about, and that's why we're driven these days. It's everything's at our fingertips. We sit there, we read every day, and there was thousands of comments on posts. I'm sure that knowing you probably wouldn't have read too many of them because not many comments were too good. But like, why do you feel it was important now to jump on and I guess chat about it?
Oh, look, I just think because we have more solid information to be able to talk about. To be honest, when you work with people who make challenging decisions about their involvement in the Australian Baseball League, and regardless of whether you totally agree with those decisions, there's some disappointment, there's some sadness that that those things have happened. But there's also an appreciation for anyone who would go to the effort of investing into an ABL team and going into operating a license. And there's been, many people that have done that over the course of a number of years. So there's the element of, respecting the fact that people have made decisions and respecting the fact that, they're making difficult decisions and they're putting public announcements out there and people are upset about all of those things. There's also the element of working with stakeholders to make sure that when we do announce things that we are in a position to be able to deliver them. And whilst we have confidence in what we can deliver, we're also reliant on multiple other stakeholders to be able to deliver that. And that takes time for them to be able to consider their position as well. So these things don't happen overnight. And there's, a lot of work that gets done by a lot of people to make sure that they're in a position to be able to make decisions that are right for them, that are right for the league, that are right for everyone involved. And they take time. So as much as we would have liked to get on the front foot and go on, hey, here's where this is, and this is what the schedule looks like, and this is who's playing, and this is what's doing, like here, there's plans in and around it to be able to go, this is what we want to be able to deliver, working with those stakeholders to go, is this viable for you? How do we, reshape this for the coming season? What can we do to make sure that, this is successful for you? Are you comfortable with that? And, even, to the timing of this call, we set this opportunity up to be able to chat last week, I believe it was, or early this week. And, I actually accepted the invite, a couple of days ago. I was actually looking at it, and, the Perth Heat informed us yesterday that, look, they've done a lot of, deep diving and a lot of analysis, and it's not for them. They can't, they're not going to take it on this year. It's unsustainable for them. They don't see it as being something viable, and we respect that decision. And all the way along, they've been there going, hey, look, we're still reviewing this. We need to be able to do what we need to do here to be able to make the decisions we need to make. But they've been going, look, this is where a clash may be in the schedule that you're putting out there. So they've been actually actively assisting the league in terms of building what the season looks like for 25-26 while they're reviewing their position. And, they're really difficult decisions for people to make. So as much as we'd love to get on the front foot and start, making announcements and doing those things, there's, some respect for the people that have, put an effort in. There's respect for the people that need to be able to do a lot of analysis to be able to make decisions around it, and to be in a position now where we've got certainty around what we can deliver is, when we start to be able to make announcements and when we start talking, more broadly about it. And I totally get it. Look, people want to be able to get answers. People want to know what's happening right away. And, it's not easy for people. People care about baseball. They care about the ABL. They care about, baseball across Australia. We do as well.
Mm.
And that's why we take our time to try and make sure that we're making the right decisions as opposed to being really reactive with things and, just saying things that we just don't think that we can deliver. And, taking the time to make sure that we're in the right position to be able to do it and our stakeholders are in the right position to be able to commit to things.
Absolutely. And I have a couple of questions, and more so, let's go back as Hughesy sort of explained the timeline of events there. We had Melbourne withdraw from the ABL. We
Mm-hmm.
then had Canberra also hand back their license. Is that correct in saying that? And then Sydney has also had new ownership in that
Mm-hmm.
time. Sydney
Yep.
owner has informed the league, and then new owner has come in. And
Mm-hmm.
now, up to current day, Perth has obviously turned around and said that they will be handing back their license. Is that correct? In
Mm.
those sorts of
Yeah.
like terms, right? So Melbourne
Mm.
obviously did, and sorry if you can't answer this, I understand. I fully
Mm.
understand that, but Melbourne own their license still. Is that how that works? Are they still able to play as the Melbourne Aces in the KBO? Is that correct?
So they had a license agreement that had them, competing in the league,
Okay.
to be able to play in the league. They own the rights to the name of the Melbourne Aces.
Right.
So, as much as they were under the obligations to operate their team with an agreement with us to be able to operate in the ABL, they bought the rights to their brands and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah.
that's where they'll continue to be able to play, as the Melbourne Aces.
I only asked that in the way of, so yesterday, obviously, Perth Heat announced that they won't be taking place in the ABL,
Mm-hmm.
and then today, the Australian Baseball League or Baseball Australia
Mm-hmm.
announced that there will definitely be a four-team competition, right, and that the Perth Heat will be a part of that in this upcoming season. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess, and you could see in the comments, a lot of fans were, oh no, what's going on? Like, what, they're in, they're out, what's going on? So I think for us to even just clarify, first of all, that the licensing and how that sort of
Mm.
works. I mean, look, we're not lawyers. I'm just a coffee guy,
Yep.
but we can sort of say, hey, yes, the Perth Heat will be there.
Mm.
And can you even give us that to say that, hey, the Heat will still be there. They'll still be in the
Mm.
red and the black and the white. They'll still be out at Baseball Park come summer. Everything's going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
as best it can be. So that is basically what ABL has come out and said today. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, again, a decision by the license holders of the Perth Heat on
Right.
whether they were looking to be able to continue. And, when people put messages out there, they, as much as they're licensing that brand and that team, like there's a lot of investment and personal investment in it. So
Yeah.
it's not as if you can just, once you're doing that over a number of years, and, we're talking about license holders who've been involved since the outset of the league, who've committed to investing in that team and operating that team out of Baseball Park. Contributors to the growth of Baseball Park out there. Baseball WA done a tremendous job in terms of facility growth, but having the Perth Heat on the field and successful for a number of years out there is a credit to the people that have invested into that team for a number of years. And they said, look, we're out. We can't do it. Won't be there. And, again, we've, been working with them. They told us that, look, we'll transition it back to us. We'll take custodianship of it. We'll make sure that it keeps ticking along and, we'll start to be able to enact some of the contingency plans we had in place, based on their honesty and, like kind of candor in terms of saying, look, we need to be able to review this.
So, as we're talking about the Heat, and we'll dive into a couple of the other teams as well, but
Mm.
with the Perth Heat and the way it read today was that Baseball Australia is taking back the ownership of the Heat. Is
Mm.
there two options here? Is it one, you take it back, you try to bring in new investors and a new ownership group,
Mm.
and then on the back end of that, if that's not successful, will Baseball Australia facilitate the Perth Heat this season?
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty firm in our communication that we're committed to a four-team league this year.
Yeah.
We've been planning to be able to do that. As much as similar when Sydney said, "Look, we can't operate anymore." Different circumstances have changed for us, and like as much as we've enjoyed doing it, we don't have the capacity to do it. Regretfully, we have to be able to hand the license back. You guys have to take it on.
Mm.
We take over the operation of the team and we work towards making sure that that is ticking over. So it's not just sitting there dormant.
Mm.
And we go out there and we look to be able to find people who are interested in taking that on. Once we get to the position of committing to a 4-team league, we go, well, what's the commitment and what does that look like? And what's the contingency plan if one of the license holders says to us, look, we simply can't do this. We need to be able to step in and we need to be able to operate that team and we need to be able to have contingency plans in place. So, we have stakeholders that we'll work with in relation to that. We'll look at where, private investment may come in to that. And, we're committed to make sure that there's a 4-team league this year. And, we currently have the Perth Heat under management. We're operating it. And, we're determined to be able to set them up for a successful year and continue to build on the legacy that, has been ongoing for a number of years.
You go, Luke.
Well, I guess the follow-up question to that then, with seeing comments that were made today and drawing the link between, okay, the Perth Heat will be saved, right? Their organisation, if there's no ownership model that you can find that you guys think is viable enough to be able to sustain it this year and moving forward, Canberra come into the equation of, why didn't they not get saved? Like, why is it that, they're not going to be in the ABL this year? And like, is it purely just a timing thing? You guys announced it's going to be a 4-team league. Perth were the last ones to pull out. Hence, is that why Perth got saved and say Canberra didn't? Was it a timing thing?
Yeah, look, there's multiple factors in there. So a timing thing. Again, the Canberra guys committed significant effort and investment into operating the team. They had a great season last year. They had some really challenging circumstances in and around as license holders that I won't really go into, but like a credit to them that they continue to chip away and continue to be able to put an effort on there. And they let us know that they couldn't pursue that. At the time, we had significant interest in someone taking on the Sydney license, and that left us with Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane, and a Sydney license looking like someone would take it on. So a timing thing, a cadence thing, and as time plays out and as these things unfold, there are people who make contact with you around interest in operating these clubs. We've had people reach out and go, what does this look like for Canberra into the future? How do we get involved in it? The license holders in Canberra themselves, hey, we're not in a position to be able to do it here. However, we are interested in making sure that baseball in Canberra is successful. So if there's an opportunity down the track for this to happen, then we're eager to be able to do that. It's the same as the messaging from the guys in Perth. Look, we're not in a position to be able to do this. We hope that you can get it through. We're really appreciative of the work that you're doing to try and reset this into the future. And we'd love to try and find a way that we can support baseball maybe into the future, is the general messaging that happens when you have these conversations there. So it's a timing thing, it's a cadence thing, and it's probably an interest level thing in terms of those respective markets.
Yeah. I do have so many questions because obviously, especially out of today's statement, I mean, there was a little bit of there around IMG. As far as that, we'll get into that later. I'd love to talk about the schedule and potentially, ask some questions around that. But I do have to get one thing off my chest, Glenn, and I have to ask it because, please, I understand that this isn't an easy time for anyone, right? Like, hey, business is hard, times are tough, everyone's struggling a little bit, right? But I think we sort of have this bit of a break out of COVID, right? Understandably so. There's a lot of travel restrictions. Things are changing all around the world. We're back. We get told that, I've got here like things like we're back. We're into American homes. This is around the time of like Manny Mania, which was huge for me, right? Big baseball fan, Manny Ramirez fan. And next year we're into the Asian markets. We're doing huge numbers and all those sorts of things. This year we're ramping up. Prem 12 ramping up for the WBC. There's Olympics on the horizon. And then we've got 25, 26 where we think we're without Melbourne Canberra,
Mm.
and yesterday Perth.
Mm.
That sort of reset that we had back then to try and make a sustainable league, is that at that time, I'm guessing that, yeah, things weren't certain. We weren't sure
Mm.
that the economy was going to continue on in ways that it has. But
Mm.
where are we at now? Why is it that we've had this little break of trying to make this sustainable, and now we're at a point where maybe it just isn't sustainable? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100% it makes sense. And I think that in our statement, it read that, our model is unsustainable.
Yeah.
The fact that, and again, it's running a professional league as a national sporting organisation. Running a national sporting organisation is difficult. Running a professional league as a national sporting organisation, running a professional team in this country, regardless of what league you play in, is really, really difficult. People that are running A-League teams are losing millions of dollars a year. The people that are running these professional clubs, it's really, really difficult to be able to do. And people have put tremendous effort into operating those things, inclusive of us, inclusive of our license holders, for a number of years. So we have looked at the churn through it, and people come in excited. They come in with passion. They come in wanting to make a difference, and they come in wanting to commit to baseball from the outset. And they get in there and they do the very best they can, and they battle through, and they put a great product on the field, and they give fans an opportunity to be able to see, they give players an opportunity to be able to play. And ultimately, the challenge of operating a professional team and professional league is really, really hard. And if circumstances change in outer businesses or in other areas, then it gets really challenging. So
Yeah.
Our model is unsustainable on where it is. As a national sporting organisation, we've got our limitations in relation to how much we invest. We're not out there just, churning through cash to try and, make it work. If you want to be able to get broadcast deals into Asia, if you want your league to be on free-to-air TV rather than paying, $1,800 to $3,500 to be able to stream the games, you're paying, like 10, 15, $20,000 to be able to get it to HD broadcast, to be able to get it onto a channel. Yep. If you want to be able to sell a broadcast deal into Asia on free to air, then you have to be able to have a great quality product. You have to have people commentating in the language. You have to have contacts over there. You have to have deep marketing and media teams. You have to be doing all of these things, right? So the model that we currently have, to where we've tried to do it on our own, is something that, has been proven to be unsustainable. It's, no one's fault. We've been, chipping away at it. We took the league on after MLB walked away from it, and Baseball Australia State Association stepped in. Baseball Australia stepped in to continue to run the ABL. License holders have come in and invested in the ABL, and the model is unsustainable in the current climate. So as much as we've suggested within our article today that the model is unsustainable, it's not news to us. But when we have agreements in place with people that have signed up to a model to be able to do it, and we've got multiple stakeholders that we need to be able to deliver outcomes from, it's not as easy as just going, well, we'll click our fingers and we're going to change that. This is how it is now, guys, because those people, respectfully, who come in to be able to invest in their sports, in our sport, have set their businesses up based on the model that we're presenting them to, right? So you can't just easily click your fingers and expect it to be better. And that's why we're looking at how we can reset this. And we're working with IMG. IMG, we've been working with them for over 8 months now. Prior to that, we were having conversations with a potential external investor. And for this league to, truly grow and really, really reach its potential, it needs investment both domestically, but also internationally. And it needs buy-in from, multiple stakeholders there. And it needs a model that helps suit different markets. And that's the work that we're underway with. So we recognize it's an unsustainable model. We as frustrated as the fans that we haven't been able to make it work. We're as frustrated as the license holders that we haven't made it work. But we're also not sitting here like casting blame or going, oh well, it's just it's just the way it is. We're working hard to try and change that.
Well, you could have blamed me early on. I did give you that option, mate. I did give you that. No, and look, it is fair enough. I understand that. It's just, look, there's still people that believe they you could read it again. I know we talk about the comments a lot, and we probably shouldn't, but it is a good depth gauge of what people are looking at and saying. And You know, people are still saying, "Hey, isn't MLB in on this? What's happened there?" It's like I'm pretty sure that was like
Yeah.
10 years ago, right? Like, what's going on? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, it is
Yeah. And
interesting.
look, at the end of the day, like um, it's not easy, but it's the commentary and the passion and everything that comes through when, like sitting here as the CEO of the organization, I've been involved in baseball my whole life. So I'm not sitting here going, great, we're going to put an announcement out today that says that the owners of the Perth Heat license, the guys that have operated the license for 7 years who've committed in that, they're going to say they're out. You beauty, this is going to be great. You know, how awesome is that, right? It's hurting. It's hurtful for us. It's hurtful for those guys. It's hurtful for the players. It's hurtful for everyone who's, being committed to this because they want it to be great. We want it to be great. The license holders want it to be great. And so that's why we continue to go to the effort to improve it and get it to a position where it's sustainable, where it's generating commercial revenue, where it's generating the revenue to be able to make the fan experience better, to make the player experience better, to get more investment into stadiums so club players can utilize baseball park. So as much as the Perth Heat have benefited from baseball park, I guarantee there's hundreds of state league players that get the opportunity to be able to play out there. There's heaps of kids that get an opportunity to be able to go out there and train and play games in it. So we want this to be really successful. We want it to be able to move forward. The license holders get in and they're not coming in going, oh, great, how do I come in and, like burn my dough and then, have to make a difficult decision and leave. There's a lot of people that are working really hard for it. And we choose the hard path, right? We want to make sure the easy path would have been to go, oh, it's all too hard. Months ago, put something out there, have everyone be really upset and have no plan in terms of what it looks like. The plan is right now, we're going to operate a team in the coming season. We're working with our stakeholders. We've got, a league that's coming up in 25, 26. It's an opportunity for fans and players and umpires and scorers and everyone to get out there and support it. Some people like it, some people won't. But, when it was 6 teams or 8 teams, some people liked it, some people didn't. And we're working on what it can look like into the future. And the baseball opportunity, there's millions of fans that are in Asia. We have the NPB, KBO, CPBL, who are constantly inquiring about the ABL. What's happening with the ABL? How do we help the ABL? How do we help grow the ABL? We've got teams who've sent players down to the ABL who see the tremendous benefit of it. The Chiba Lotte Marines sent 5 players to Sydney last year. 4 of those players are in their starting lineup this year. And they're actually impact guys. They're going, this is great. How do we make sure that we're doing that? And what we're doing now is going, well, how do we develop a model that can deliver outcomes for local players, that can deliver outcomes for local fans, that can help increase the quality of the facilities across the entirety of Australia, that can have Asian players, Asian investment, international investment into a league? And how do we tap into the markets that are sitting on our doorstep north of us and do it in a meaningful way that actually generates commercial revenue to make sure that the league is growing as opposed to surviving, I guess is the...
So I guess in saying that, like for me, looking at it now, the shift around from the stay when the MLB were involved, it was heavily driven by American players, from different clubs, right? And, we had some teams down here, some teams have come and gone since then, and it was heavily American based. Now, the last couple of years, a lot more, I'll just call it Asian teams, have invested, I guess, their resources, their money to send players down. Is the model shifting away from, say, the American investment to more so the Asian market? Is that the direction we're going?
Well, the model is shifting towards what's relevant for right now. So we've talked about a model reset. MLB came in and started the league when they started it. And they went, well, our minor league players want to play this amount of games because this is how many at-bats they need. It's great that they can sit, and play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they get 3 days off to work out. It's great they can do that. But look at the advancements, like Hughesy, you were playing, back then. Look at the advancements compared to then to now, what young players need and what professional players need. The Players Association with MLB now look after MILB players. And so simply telling players, you're going to go to win a ball and this is what you're going to do, there's certain timings that they can and can't do that. So the model's been set up, based on what was, like a while ago. And so there's a reset on that model there. So how does it make sense for international players to come down? How does it make sense for international markets to engage in it? Because ultimately, all of this takes money and takes revenue to be able to do it, right? So if you want something to thrive, you have to be able to generate commercial revenue to be able to drive that forward. So how do you unlock revenue within these markets? How do you look a little bit more widely than simply just the playing group? So there's teams that are around the world who are sending players to the ABL, but they've also starting to be able to have their own channels, who are looking for content. They're also got their marketing media departments. They've also got markets where they're trying to grow their brands outside of their current markets. So there's a lot of work being going into the model and what it can look like. That will come down to timings. It will come down to multiple factors. When we meet with our Asian league partners, they're saying, what's really important to us is when our players come down, we want to be able to track how they're doing, through data. So how do we advance the data capture within our stadiums? There's a few stadiums in the ABL that have TrackMan, not all of them do. So how do we make sure that improves, which is going to have improvements for Australian players? It's going to have improvements for emerging players coming through. There's teams that are telling us that when our players come down, because we're investing in them, we want them to be active every day. So there's some stadiums that have got indoor facilities, others that don't. So how do we make sure that investment is going towards outcomes that are helping facilities get better, that deliver great high performance outcomes for international players, Australian players, but also how do you generate the commercial revenue to be able to all make that work?
That sound, I mean, like I understand it. I feel, baseball Australia right now, or baseball within our country, is right at the crossroads, right? We've arguably got the biggest tournaments coming up over the next 7 years or whatever now. WBC next year, moving into the Olympics and the next two Olympics, and obviously the Olympics up in Brizzy. With that said, you're talking about the heavy investment with the Asian markets. Great. Is there going to be enough opportunities for those younger players that essentially are going to be the heart and soul of that national team in 7 years' time in playing in Brisbane? Is there going to be enough positions available for them to grow and develop with such a, I guess, heavily focused Asian market within all the four teams? And hopefully there's another two and it gets back to six.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess with this model, when we're saying looking at Asian investment, we're looking at Asian players coming in. This is a more meaningful engagement with those league partners outside of simply going, hey, can you send us a shortstop, a starting pitcher, and an outfielder? It's almost like, how do we collaborate and how do you have a partner team that's here in Australia to where you have a seat at the table, where you're helping them with their coaching, where you're helping them send players, where you're helping get the broadcast into those local markets, into those regions, where you're helping generate revenue to be able to go back into the league. And the overwhelming feedback on all of these conversations that we have with people is, if we were to provide an opportunity for winter ball for your players to play, would you want to be able to play in a league where it's all players from that country or all players from your team competing against other teams in a league? Or would you want that to make sure that there is, players from Australia on your team? Oh, we want Australian players on our team. We see that as one of the most valuable things. The NPB teams that send players down there, the players integrate with our players here in the ABL, and that is a major benefit for them. So there's a definite interest in ensuring that this league services high performance outcomes, both for the professional teams coming in, because whether they're giving investment, currently as we're investing in the league, or we're going to invest in this team and we're going to take on, like a portion of the license, or we're going to invest into a group there. When the Tampa Bay Rays send players down to the Perth Heat to be able to play this year, they're investing in the ABL. They're investing in that team. So how do we make sure that investment is more meaningful? And how do we look at ways that within their markets, they can generate the revenue to not only cover their costs, but also help supercharge the investment into the league? So from our end, the thing that sits critical with all of the planning and all of the discussions that we've been having all the way along is that as much as it's got to deliver commercial returns and a sustainable model and league, we're in the business of developing Australian players. We're in the business of putting those players on national teams so they can go and win in international events. So the high performance outcomes for Australian players, whether it be through playing opportunities, through development opportunities, through connections back into Asian clubs. It's one thing that we're seeing the emergence of. Lockie Wells going over to Korea, Cohen Wynn going into Korea. The KBO have just had a new Asian exemption clause where they can add players who have been playing in NPB, CPBL, ABL is listed as one of those leagues. They're eligible to be able to go and play as an extra roster spot on that. So there's all these links into that. We've seen Jared Dale, through the work, the Melbourne Aces, to credit to them, the relationship they've had over in Japan. Jared has a great year in the ABL, goes over there and is playing in Japan now. So there's all these opportunities that are not only going to happen within Australia through playing opportunities, facility development, but also to the links of potential opportunities into Asia, there. But again, we want this league to be successful. We want it to be the window into our sport. We want it to be the cornerstone of our sport. We want it to be investing back into the sport so we can do, other things really well or other things better. But Australian players are at the forefront of any of those discussions and remain a priority in all of these discussions that we're currently having.
You took the words right out of my mouth there when you discussed, obviously, my brother Lachlan Wells and Cohen Wynn, because it is. We look at players coming in, but also we have to look at now, like with those changes in the rules, of course, the opportunity for us to send our guys over there as well. You sort of touched on it briefly there, Glenn, as far as IMG. Is there anything more, and I understand probably the reality is no, but is there anything more you can share about that relationship and how that might look moving forward, big changes, anything like that you would be able to give us, to give the fans, to let us know?
I will say this. The work that we've done with IMG has been ongoing, for quite some time. And that's not just because, we're, mailing it in. It's because there's a significant amount of thorough work that's going into it. There's significant market research that's happening in, different markets. They, as much as, the people that are directly working on our project are UK based. We have been liaising with the office in Tokyo. We've been liaising with the office in Korea, been liaising with the office in Sydney. And the thing that I can assure people is this isn't about us, like putting our finger up in the air to be able to see which way the wind blows. This is about doing some deep analysis in relation to not only what model would work from an on-field perspective and how can we deliver high performance outcomes, but what makes the most commercial sense in relation to driving this forward, and how do we look to be able to secure the investment, whether it's through international investment, domestic investment. We don't want to get so caught up in going, look, Asia's the golden goose here. There's, like a lot of people that have invested in the ABL for a long time that are here in Australia who have significant interest in seeing this thing work and, will want to be, part of this model. So it's a deep dive into multiple markets and a significant amount of analysis that's going on to develop a model. And it's one that continues to, questions, continue to be asked, feedback from different people. If we were to do this, working with your team, what would your team look at this, and, for me, I'm a baseball guy. I've been involved in baseball for a long time. So the high performance stuff, they're easy conversations for me to have. Where the IMG conversations are easier is in relation to, well, what does your broadcast partner in this market think about that? With your own streaming channel, when, some work that we did with Manchester United, they were saying that this product here was helping them with that. So there's all these elements where, that are really exciting. And we're actually working with a partner who are the best in the business at this type of stuff. It's it's information that the league and Baseball Australia have never had access to before. And it's a partner who's thinking about this from a commercial perspective and a broadcast perspective. Whilst we're going, this is really what's important for us from a baseball perspective.
That's interesting. I mean, hey, I was a big for years, mate. I'll tell you this now. I for years said it should be on live, free to air TV, and then when Baseball Plus came along, I said to myself, actually, you know what? They might be onto something there. So whatever it looks like in the future, I'm sure you guys have got better data than my brain. So that's really good to hear. So I really I'm excited to see. One thing, did you have any other questions, Luke, as far as what we're talking about at the moment? Yeah. Do you
No,
want to jump
I
in?
mean, I do, and I guess and kind of draws it back to the start of the conversation, and something that I've noticed. Baseball Australia have been really reactive to the situations that have happened, but not proactive getting out in front of, I guess, the announcements. And I know there's probably a chain of events that happen, and there's probably a process that you guys need to follow. But from speaking to fans and mates, friends, reading comments, everything that's kind of happened has been very reactive. Moving forward, will Baseball Australia and the ABL be a little bit more proactive? And this is probably a good step tonight, actually getting you on and chatting and giving the fans some more information, which that's what they've just been craving for. Moving forward, will you guys be more proactive with bringing more information out? And I know the schedule will be a huge thing, what the league's going to look like. I know there's a lot of good announcements that are maybe a month or two away still, but is that the plan?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like I said from the outset, we'd love to get on the front foot and tell people exactly what's happening because we know that people want to know. In terms of being reactionary, we have at times, and happy to be able to admit it, right? We're not perfect with things, and happy to go, yeah, that probably would have looked a little bit reactionary. But how things play out in real life compared to how things are planned, forces you sometimes to have to be reactionary. And when you're working with someone who's dedicated, and I'll just use an example. I won't get into specifics, but when you're working with someone who needs to be able to make a difficult decision, and they make a difficult decision, and they pour their heart out and their soul out, and go, "This is a difficult decision for us, and we're unfortunately going to have to do this," and they tell us, and then they say, "We'd like to be able to align with timing and messaging on an announcement, to be able to tell our people, but before we put it on a public announcement and we get out front of things and we start putting announcements out there, we need to be able to tell our players and we need to tell our coaches and our volunteers and our sponsors and our friends and people that have supported us all the way through it. And as soon as they press go on that information, people generally go, I've got some gossip here, and the information spreads right away. So as much as you try and control the message and have a plan to be able to do it, it forces reactionary announcements certain times because people go, all right, well, the word's out there. We need to be able to get out there in the public, and it throws plans out of whack. So yeah, absolutely can acknowledge we've been reactionary in at certain times. Definitely not making excuses for it. We want to be better at it, and like I said from the outset, we're in a position now where we can confidently get out there and say, this is what's happening and this is where we're going. We have ABL meetings next week. We've got all the license holders coming in to be able to finalize schedules and talk about rule formats and talk about, ways that we can set a playoff format up and, different items that they've been talking on in the background over the course of a number of months. So we're very close to being in a position to have things finalized to where we can start making announcements and be in a position to say, hey, here's where it's coming, right? Like the players are keen for this, the fans are keen for it, and we totally get it. So, look, I mean, one thing that I will say is the last few months have been really challenging on a lot of people, like whether you're a fan or you're a player or you're a license holder or you're a Baseball Australia employee or a board member, who all really care about this sport. There's been a lot of stuff that's played out there that's been upsetting to people, and there's been a lot of criticism of our organisation, me in particular, and all of those things. So, again, we're not shying away from it. We're not saying we're perfect. We're doing the best we can. We are working hard here to be able to try and drive positive outcomes for our game in the immediacy, but then also into the future. And we understand how important this is to people out there. So yeah, we get it. People are upset. We're upset as well. We're not sitting here going, "Oh, how amazing is this? This is great. We can't wait to make like a bunch of people out there who love our game really upset." Here's what this is here. So yeah, look, totally, it's a good point. Yeah, and absolutely, we would love to be more reactionary, and less reactionary. Sorry, and we'd love to be in a position to be able to continually announce good news stories as we build into season 25-26.
ABL meetings next week. Do you just want to off air? Just text me where they'll be, and Hughesy and I'll come. We'll come hang out.
Yeah, no worries. They're
what do you call yourself, Mr. Bloopstein? Is that
Bloopstein guy? He'll be around. He's always sniffing the story.
I guess I get one last question. Well, I don't know how much more time you got, but Baseball Australia taking on the license, right? That's kind of huge. Huge financial commitment to Baseball Australia to be able to, and if you hopefully you sell the team, great, perfect, right? Bring some investors in, perfect. I think that's an ideal world. I'm sure that's your ideal world. I'm sure, if you do have the reins, you'll probably sign TK to a 10-year contract and give him whatever he wants and continue him playing until he's 50. I think he's 40th coming up soon. So my big thing is how does Baseball Australia take on that amount of, I guess, financial commitment? And where's that money coming from? Like where are we finding, call it a couple of $100,000 sitting somewhere to be able to facilitate a team based in Perth, and how's that going to look?
Yeah, so like I said, we've been planning for this in the eventuation that it happens, because we need to be able to have contingency plans in place. And it's not about going, well, the contingency plan is that if the guys in Perth can't take it on, then we'll take it on and away we go. We'll be right, and then we'll figure it out. So the ABL, Baseball Australia invests in the ABL at a significant level each and every year. We've committed to invest in the ABL at that level again this year. And so when you have an investment, you also have budgets in and around it, and you also plan for things. So we're in a position where we've been planning for this from a budgeting perspective. We have been looking at alternate revenue streams that we could look at doing that. We have spoken to potential people that may want to invest in the ABL or invest in teams. Once we heard that news, as a bit of a contingency on what it would look like. So it is a risk. Operating the league is a risk, but also too, we're not going into this blind, and we do have plans in relation to what that looks like.
Yeah, very interesting. So I guess another question that I have for you, and we will wrap it up shortly. We do appreciate your time. And I think it's the question on everyone's lips. And I think I know the answer already, but whatever. I'm going to ask you. Are we going 40 games? We got another 40-game season up our sleeve. Is that what we're thinking? You can't tell.
I mean, again, as has always been the case with the ABL, and I think it's important for people to recognise this. The teams, the schedule is really important to the teams. They look at these schedules and they go, this is the time where we could potentially draw. This is what's going to be a bit of a fallback here. But it also it can be a revenue generator, but it also can be, like a significant expense line. So if you're trying to host a series, in Adelaide as an example, and the Ashes test is on, try and get a hotel room. That's, what a reasonable price would be. So, as we always do, we go back to the teams and we say, hey, look, our role and responsibility in operating the league under the license agreement is to be able to set the schedule and to be able to set the rules. But we know that both of those things affect you guys from a commercial perspective. So how do we make sure that we collaborate and we work on that? So we've been working back and forth with the teams. We've looked at multiple options and we've asked them to be able to go back and do their analysis. What makes sense for you in terms of hosting? How many openings do you want? what would make sense on where those openings are, which nights you want to open and do all those things. So, look, we have a draft schedule that's finalised that is going to be presented to the teams for sign off next week, and that's been heavily driven by some of our ideas, but also collaboration through the teams, and making sure that the people that are committed to operating teams this year have the best chance of commercial return and success, and both on and off the field.
Very good. Very
Are
good.
we gonna see some change to the format? Are we going to shake things up? I know he can't.
He can't tell you that. He's
but
just told us that the teams have input and they collaborate on the outcome. Okay, he can't come and say they're going to change the format, because what if the teams come in and say we don't want to do that, and then he's gone and said that? Come on, Luke.
I'll give you an example of like where we can shake things up, and where things could be shaken up, and an example of where that is.
Tell me we're doing a gather round. Tell me we're doing
if you can, if you have a discussion, and we talked about get it on free to air or get it onto one of the big streaming networks and do all those things. We've had those conversations with them, and they've suggested to us, look, we would love to be able to take your content because we want to be able to fill up our streaming platforms and our channels, with content. But then they'll also say, but where we need the content is on a Monday night and a Tuesday night and a Wednesday. And then Thursday during the day would be great. Saturday during the day is really good. And so all the times when people are playing sport, content, like it doesn't make sense for us. So, and we had discussions with, teams a while back to go, hey, look, this is what they're telling us. What do you think? And, the team's going to come back and go, look, that would be, like really challenging for us. We want to make sure that our fans can get out and see our players. And so a lot of the time shaking things up and, doing things, totally different might make sense, there, and, you try it and everything. But again, someone has to bear that risk. And ultimately, the teams are the ones that would have to bear that risk if we were to significantly change it. So that's why we engage with them, and that's why we ask them. And, respectfully to them, we don't want to just go ahead and make wholesale changes that might, affect their ability to be able to, have a good gate on the weekend and get people out there and so on and so forth. So, look, it's in discussion with them. We collaborate with them and consult with them, and we want to make sure that the people that are, like playing this year have the best chance of success.
Someone on Instagram today asked if Hughesy would buy the Heat, and I just said, imagine if Hughesy got dumped as an owner for arguing balls and strikes. That in my head is still very, very funny, and I don't know if it's happened before, but we'll have to find out. But no, we're going to squash those rumors right now. Hughesy is not going to buy the Heat, so that's a shame. But anyways.
No. Liam Hendricks, on the other hand, heard he's got a spare couple of dollars floating around. So,
never know. You never know.
Maybe get it. How we go, Meaty, Bizarre. We'll recruit Meaty over to Perth. He can play for us too. Bazana can come over too, and we'll get Hendo. There we go.
Perfect.
There's your ownership group. Starting second base, starting first base, closing the doors. I've just done your job for you, Willow. I've done it for you. All right. You can hire me as a manager too if you want.
Brilliant. Yeah.
We appreciate your time, Willow, and we do thank you very, very much for coming on. And look, mate, all the best for everything that's coming up, and I hope that we've answered some of the fans' questions. And look, like I said, mate, we really do appreciate your time, so thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it, guys. And yeah, as I said before, there's there's a fair bit of work still to be able to do, but significant amount of effort to be able to get to where we are now. And we understand that this is really important to people, and it's one of the reasons why we continue to roll our sleeves up and try and put a great product on the field for them for this year, and work to make sure that it's sustainable into the future. And hopefully the news around ABL moving forward is positive and driving in the right direction.
No worries. Thanks Willow. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There we go. That was Glenn Williams, Baseball Australia's CEO, talking about the ABL and its current landscape and everything that's gone on, and and hopefully everything that will continue to go on in the future. And hey, we're going to have a season. We're going to have a 4-team season this year. And look, onwards and upwards is all we can say. And I really do thank Glenn and him for coming on, talking to us, talking to you, the fans. And I guess I kind of wanted to finish this episode with a little message to the fans, because I'm just like you. Hughesy's just like you guys. We're just fans. We're just fans of the league. And I guess we just have a little platform. And I don't know. I just want to put this out there to all of you as fans and just say, like, think about it as an opportunity, right? We've found out over the last few months that the ABL's struggling, right? Just as we all are, day to day, things are expensive. No different for those guys, right? It's not necessarily our responsibility to go out and do everything that we can, but you know what? If this thing goes away, if the ABL goes away, you've all shown on social media, everywhere, that it's sad, that you're not happy that if it goes away, okay? So let's do something about it. Let's take it into our own hands. Let's guerrilla market this thing. You know what I mean? You know, if you can afford to go out to the ballpark a couple of times a weekend and enjoy the game and take the kids, go for it. Keep doing it. If you're already doing it, keep doing it, right? If you can only afford to maybe go once every couple of weeks or maybe once a week, go, you know, do it. Support the game. If you can't afford to go to the ballpark, if you can't afford all the crazy merch and all that kind of stuff, I get it. Why don't you share the posts on Facebook? Why don't you put things up on your Instagram story about the ABL or your local team? It doesn't have to be the Perth Heat. It doesn't have to be whoever. It's just your team. Tell your friends about it. You know, if you've got friends at work and you're talking about something that they could do on the weekend, introduce them to a game of baseball, because that's what happened to us at some point. Whether you've been a baseball lifer like a lot of us or whether you've just got into the game, right? This is an opportunity for us to get more people involved with the game. And we then as fans know that we've done everything that we can, right? We're not making the big decisions. We're not doing all this stuff that all the guys at BA and ABL and all of that and the team owners are doing. But we then know as fans that we've supported this game as much as we could, and we've tried to do our little bit. Because if this thing goes away, it's going to suck. And I promise you it's going to suck. So let's try and just put the word out there. We've got a unique opportunity. The league doesn't come back until towards the end of this year. So we've got a couple more months. Just keep that in your mind. Next time you start to see an ABL post or a Perth Heat or Adelaide Giants post or even the Brisbane Bandits, if you're up there in sunny Queensland, don't forget to interact with it. Don't forget to tell your neighbour, tell your friends, introduce new people, bring them along to the ballpark, because hopefully then they get hooked, just like we all did. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Peace.
Going back. This ball's back.